On Monday, 7th October 1985, the Italian cruise ship Achille Lauro arrived at the port of Alexandria, Egypt. This marked the 5th day of its journey, having originated in the Italian city of Genoa. The ship hosted a total of 748 passengers and 450 crew members. Upon reaching Alexandria, 651 passengers disembarked and boarded buses permitted to travel to Cairo. Following their departure, the ship's captain left the Alexandria port with the remaining 97 passengers, making way 225 kilometers west towards Port Said in Egypt. The plan was for the Cairo-bound tourists, who had departed earlier, to rejoin the ship after a 14-hour delay. However, the Cairo-bound tourists reached the port of Said around 10:30 p.m., but there was no sign of the Achille Lauro. After waiting for 3 hours, they were informed that the Achille Lauro had been hijacked. Of the remaining 97 passengers, 4 were hijackers who had concealed their weapons in a fuel tank, resulting in a strong odor in their room. After departing from Alexandria port, they were in their room, drying their weapons when a waiter unintentionally walked into their room to serve them fruits. She saw their weapons. Hijackers had not planned to reveal their intention to hijack the ship near Alexandria port, but their secret was inadvertently exposed. Consequently, they promptly moved to the ship's dining hall, instigating fear among the passengers and initiating a hostage situation. When questioned by a stewardess about their identities, one of the hijackers claimed they were Norwegian nationals. Before the hijackers could reach the ship's radio room, an operator had managed to send out an SOS call, announcing that the Achille Lauro had been hijacked. This SOS message was received by a radio station in Sweden. Upon receiving the SOS message, the hijackers seized the radio room and disabled the ship's entire communication system. They subsequently commanded the ship's captain to report to the main bridge. Upon his arrival, they demanded, in a mix of Arabic and imperfect English, that the ship set course for Tartus port in Syria. Captain was obliged to instruct the ship's crew of 450 people to continue their normal tasks, with the caveat to avoid getting too near any hostages. With no other options, the captain complied with the hijackers' directives. The hijackers instructed all the hostages to sleep on the floor. The crisis management team in Italy had been activated, being that this was an Italian cruise ship. Initially, when United States learning that there were American nationals on the ship, the U.S. crisis management team also stepped in. In ship, U.S. passengers were involved. It was an Italian ship, and the incident occurred in Egyptian territory. The debate as to which country should respond was still in progress. The United States initially believed that since the ship was Italian, it was Italy's responsibility to take action. However, the Italian government preferred to resolve the hijacking through negotiation instead of using force. Conversely, the United States wanted to adopt a hardline stance against the hijackers. As a result, the U.S. advised all Mediterranean countries to forbear from granting docking permission to the Achille Lauro. The following morning, 8th October, the Achille Lauro arrived near Syria. The captain requested permission to dock at the Tartus port. However, due to prior alerts from the U.S., the Syrian authorities did not respond. Subsequently, the hijackers began separating passengers based on their nationality, apparently searching for Americans and Jews. They separated a total of 20 passengers, including an elderly couple, Marilyn Klinghoffer, and her husband, Leon Klinghoffer, who was wheelchair-bound and 69 years old. The hijackers ordered the 20 passengers to move to an upper area. While the Achille Lauro was awaiting permission to enter Syria, the hijackers communicated their demands to the Syrian authorities over the radio. The apparent leader of the hijackers demanded the release of 50 of their comrades from an Israeli prison. The truth was now revealed: those who had claimed to be Norwegians were actually Palestinians. The hijackers' leader name was Yusuf Majid Malki. He ended by stating that if their demands were not met by 3 o'clock, they would begin to harm the Jewish passengers on board. The deadline set by the hijackers was nearing, yet their demands remained unmet. At 3 o'clock, they communicated with Tartus port, claiming that they had killed an American passenger and that another would follow. However, the officials in Tartus paid ordered them to depart. When the hijackers realized that their tactics were not working there, they directed the captain to proceed to Cyprus. Since the hijackers had been identified, Italy directly contacted Palestinian President Yasser Arafat, also the chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization, to inquire about the PLO involvement in this hijacking. Arafat not only disowned the hijacking, but also dispatched a negotiation team to Egypt to resolve the matter. This team included Abu Abbas, a leader in the Palestine Liberation Organization. Abbas reached out to the hijackers via a radio station in Cyprus and instructed them to immediately head to Egypt's Port Said, ensuring all passengers passengers were safe. Upon arriving at the Egyptian port, Abu Abbas apologized to the captain and proceeding to have a private conversation with hijackers. However, the United States viewed these individuals as terrorists and was fundamentally opposed to negotiating with them. Italy and Egypt intended to surrender the hijackers to the Palestine Liberation Organization, which would then hold them accountable for hijacking the ship. The next day, 9th October, the captain conveyed reassurances of safety for all passengers and crew members on board the ship through a broadcasted radio message. After the message was received, Italy and Egypt decided to provide the hijackers with safe passage. A tugboat was brought close to the Loro, and 4 hijackers boarded it and disappearing onto the mainland of Egypt. It was widely believed that the negotiations had been successful and the hijackers had withdrawn their demands. In truth, however, they had forced the captain at gunpoint to broadcast the message. When Syrian officials did not grant permission to the ship, the hijackers shockingly killed a passenger, Leon Klinghoffer, who used a wheelchair, and disposed of his body at sea. This news sent shockwaves around the world when it surfaced hours later. All attention was now focused on Egypt. Egypt was also attempting to separate itself from the issue. Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak stated that the hijackers had left Egypt and they did not have any information about their location. Nevertheless, in actuality, U.S. intelligence had gathered information indicating that Egypt was transporting the hijackers to Tunisia via plane, where they were to be taken into custody by representatives of the Palestine Liberation Organization. On the evening of 10th October at 6 p.m., a plane was scheduled to depart from Egypt's Al Mazah Air Base, destined for Tunisia, with 4 hijackers on board. Unbeknownst to all, the U.S. crisis management team had already started patrolling the Mediterranean, prepared to intercept the plane after its departure. Once the hijackers' plane was airborne, United States fighter jets were informed and set out in pursuit. Following 1.5 hours of flight, U.S. aircraft intercepted the plane and ordered the pilot to land at Italy's Sigonella Air Base. The pilot attempted to contact the Egyptian air base, only to realize the U.S. jets had interfered with their signals, rendering communication with the Egyptian base impossible. Left without options, the pilot was forced to redirect the plane towards Sicily. On the night of 11th October, at 12 a.m., a plane landed at Sigonella Air Base. This operation was unknown until the plane was preparing to land at the airbase. However, a dispute arose over custody since the plane had landed in Italy and the ship had been hijacked in Italian waters. Initially, Italy had the right to take them into custody, but the U.S. also desired to have custody. The meeting between Italy and the United States lasted several hours. Eventually, a call from Washington came in the morning, ordering American soldiers to step down. The agreement between the two countries was conditioned on Italy's promise to prosecute the hijackers. Additionally, Italy had observed the presence of an individual, Abu Abbas, among the passengers on the plane. He was sent by the Palestine Liberation Organization and had ties with Yasser Arafat. His presence raised suspicions that he might have orchestrated the entire hijacking scheme. However, it was uncertain whether Yasser Arafat had any knowledge of this. Due to insufficient concrete evidence connecting Abu Abbas to the hijacking, Italy chose to release him, while concurrently sentencing the 4 hijackers. The hijacker responsible for the murder of Leon Klinghoffer was given a 30-year sentence, while the remaining 3 hijackers were sentenced to between 15 to 25 years. Subsequently, it was revealed that their objective was not to hijack the ship, but to use the vessel to launch an attack on Israel's port Ashdod. This plan was a retaliatory response to previous bombing actions by Israel.